when did you get the first call from a Thunder or a Thunder player? Because you've done a lot of their parties. You've done, personal house parties. Like,
yeah, we do.
What is it like when you get that first phone call?
It was crazy. I can still remember the first time they called up. They're, hey, can you come over and feed the guys? And it is for Easter.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, why not? And meet the guy in charge. And I didn't know him. And he's like, hey, we've been to your truck a few times. We looked at other trucks, and some trucks, we're picking you because you're clean. You guys, very sanitary. You get great food, because our investment in these players is
nobody needs
$100 million.
Yeah.
And they don't need this. I'm like, oh, I thought you were just bringing us out like whatever.
Yeah, feed the staff.
And so, it happens. And so at that time, we're feeding the players, and they're like, I'll never forget, they go, it was Kevin Durant's last year before his contract. And they say, hey, you can't talk to Kevin. I'm like, that's fine.
Yeah.
Well, my kid's out front. My kid's has KDs on, and he's just kicking it. And, he's just like saying hi. And if they have questions on the menu. So Durant comes up and stands next to him. He's like, hey, nice shoes. And he's just looking. And he's like, I've been told I can't talk to you. And he's like talking. I'm like, Victor, talk to him.
You can say something. Yeah.
And so, it's kind of talked, and it was like too much pressure with that. And he was kind of alone around that part. It was weird because you can kind of tell when you get there. But all of a sudden, Nick Collison comes up. He's like, hey, this is phenomenal pizza. And I said, man, if you ever need help in doing a party, here's my card and here's my number. And give it to him. And it was great. And then Andre Robertson's a Colorado guy, and I'm a big Colorado fan. And I was just talking to him about Colorado stuff. And we had a mutual friend from back in Colorado, and he's like, hey, I'll call you up. We'll do this. And next thing you know, I'm sitting back in Perkins, which I'm an hour away, and Nick calls, and he's like, hey, I want to have the guys overnight. Can you bring the truck over? These guys don't know where I live.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we'll be right there. And we go over, and, it's like you serve the players, and they're just kids. They're just 20-year-olds having fun. And it was cool. So, those guys we do some stuff for, quite a few of them do their house parties. Yeah. But one of the cooler times that we did with the guys that just was like an aha moment is we have Victor Oladipo's year, and we have Sabonis. We have McBuckets there. You have Grant. Yeah. You have that group. You have Westbrook. And it was Nick calls up, and it was the Cowboys versus the Redskins. And he wanted to have a house party. And he calls up the night before, and he's like, hey, I want to have the guys come over and watch the game. So I'm like, that's cool. We'll be over there. So we get over to his house, get set up. It's just kind of normal now. Yeah. And next thing you know, they're all out, and they're all playing football in the yards next to him. And where Nick lived in Nichols Hills, there was 4 homes within throwing a football distance, and all the players are on all the neighbors' homes. And the neighbors are looking out their window like,
what is going on?
Who is in that's Westbrook in my front yard catching a football.
Yeah.
And then I'll never forget, Oladipo has his Redskin gloves, and you put them up like this. It says Redskins. Sabonis doesn't know what the heck's going on.
Right.
And it was the coolest thing. And so the whole street is lined with the Maybach, whatever it is.
Yeah.
These Audis, everything's pimped out cars. And all of a sudden, footballs are bouncing off of them.
Yeah.
And the guys are throwing footballs over the truck and around. And it's like, these are kids.
Kids.
I'm a 40-year-old that has been, but these guys, just kids. And they're all in there. And it was so neat. So neighbors started coming out, and Nick is so nice. He's telling the neighbors, like, hey, go grab pizza. It's on us. And people are just like watching them throw a football and talk.
It's the weirdest experience, right? You're in the middle
they're
of
just like anyone else. So once we started treating it, they're just like anyone else. That's how they want to be treated. And so that was cool. And then one of my kind of funny stories with it is we have another time we're at a house party at one of the players' houses. And I forget, but Westbrook comes up and he needs his pizza right away. And so it's just my mom and my wife and myself. So I'm making and cooking. And I'm a big Colorado Buffalo fan. And back in the 80s, our best receiver and my favorite player at that time was Michael Westbrook. Mm-hmm. So Russell's at the window, and he's right next to my wife at the to-go window. And he's like, hey, how much longer for my pizza? And she's looking at me kind of shaking, like, oh, no. And I'm like, Michael, like 3 minutes, it'll be ready. And so I go back and I'm cooking, and he's like, excuse me? And I'm like, 3 minutes, Michael. I'm going to have that pizza right up, my man. And you gotta ask my wife and anyone else, my mom, but he just deadpan looks at me and he's like, my name is Russell, not Michael. I'm like, yeah, man, I knew that. But my favorite football player ever is Michael Westbrook, and I was just thinking about him today. I didn't know what to say, and I called him 3 or 4 times Michael. And there was no humor in it, nothing, just deadpan. And then later he comes back and he's like, hey, I just gave you a little shit about it. And he was nice about it. And so it was like one of those moments, like my wife's like, what in the hell is going on with you?
What are you doing right now?
Like, so sorry about that. So that was kind of our thing. And, and it hasn't just been that. We've been up to Oklahoma State to serve the football team. We're talking about serve the golf team up there, go down to OU, serve the football team for years. During spring football, we do some of the recruiting bits because at that time, a buddy of mine and their assistant coach, McMillan, when Matt was working there, he'd invite us down to do that. So we started picking on those guys, and then next thing you know, it's been cool. I mean, anybody that's somebody I think we've probably served in Oklahoma.
Right.